Welcome to Show on Your Go. It's your boy Roscoe Squeeze Off with
Needy Savage. Ooh, ooh.
And your boy Richie B.
All right, well, today we got a great topic today. We're going to let Richie B tell you about it. It's interesting, and it has to do with coronavirus as well. Go ahead, Richie B, let them know.
All right, so I was looking at the news yesterday, actually, and in the news was an article about a Baltimore City police officer that was very upset because the governor of Maryland had put in place a stay-at-home order, and the mother of his children, who he is no longer with in a relationship, sent him an email and said that because of the fact that he was a police officer and that he did work with the public, she deemed it unsafe for him to be able to see his kids with her. Now, of course, he had a major issue with this, and it's actually stirred up a lot of controversy because in the state of Maryland, the governor did say that all child support custody orders are to remain the same during this pandemic. But she, I guess, took it upon herself to say, hey, no, I don't think it's safe, so I'm not going to let you see the kids. And of course, I got everybody all in the uproar. So it's pretty interesting.
How do you feel about it, Miss Savage?
So, I think in this situation, I think that the mother has the right to express her opinion, to say, hey, maybe it's not ideal, but to just flat out say, no, I'm not going to let you see your kids because of this is without even giving him a voice, without even letting him put in his input. I think it's just, it's unfair. Like if he has these visitation rights and the visitation rights are supposed to stand no matter what his job is, I'm sure that he's being responsible and he's taking precautions. I'm sure that if he felt like he had exposed himself or put himself in at a risk of contracting the virus, he would not want to willingly expose his children to it. So I think with that has to come a little trust in that other person. Like, I don't think if he was just out there mask off, gloves off, he would be like, yeah, bring my children over here. So I just think that it's just unfair for her to just think that it's okay for her to just put her foot down and say, nope, you can't see him. And I have spoken. And that's it. It's just not, it's not fair to him. We don't know how long this is going to last, just depriving him. You got a man who wants to be active in his children's life. Let that man see his kids.
Well, I got it pulled up here, so I'm looking right at it. And it says he has the shared custody agreement. He gets the children 3 days a week. And so she's actually found probably in violation of that agreement. But according to her letter, she's saying that she doesn't want the kids to have exposure to possible coronavirus because he's an essential worker as a police officer. And he can't see them until this whole quarantine or stay-at-home order is off and over, or he quits his job, no longer is working for his job. Now, I agree that he's breaking the agreement, and full disclosure, I always side with the guy. Just joking, but kinda. But it is a famous quote. It's by Thomas Jefferson. If a law is unjust, a man is not only right to disobey it, but he's obligated to do so. And the reason I bring this up is, if you honestly just look at what's best for the children, if she's in a position, we don't know what her position is in this. It doesn't say. But if she stays at home all the time, orders her food, orders her groceries, aren't the kids kind of safer to be with her than to have a guy who's dealing with Baltimore City? And y'all saw the video. I'm out here with Baltimore, nigga. You saw that. We all saw
Right.
that.
Right.
So
right. I mean, they
know,
dancing, they making TikTok with the kids on the corner and everything else. Right.
So he's out there dealing with that nonsense with people who do not care about coronavirus or anything. Now, and I fully believe a man should always have a right to be with his children. And I could, even no matter if it was on the other foot, a woman was the cop and he was at home. But wouldn't the safest thing, just think of the safest thing, be for the kids to be in a situation where maybe they just saw him via FaceTime right now, so he doesn't have to worry about coronavirus?
I mean, if that is the case, it should be a decision that they together collectively have made. As far as what's best for the children at this point in time, because they both have custody. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I totally disagree with that, because on a personal note, I'm kind of almost in a similar situation as far as that's concerned, as far as I have sole custody of my children, as far as my ex is concerned. And so I totally get it. You want to make the right decision for the kids, but you want to do it. And if you have a parent that's in the children's life, come together and make a decision. Because he may have said, if she would have came to him and said, hey, I don't think it's safe because of what's going on, he may have understood that language and said, you know what, you may be right. And we can work around it, as far as that's concerned. But to just say, I have made the decision that this is what I'm going to do and this is what it is. No, that's not right. And again, she is breaking the law, because at the end of the day, the governor has put in that order, in that stay-at-home order, he has put in this executive order that the custody, child support, and all the things that are concerning that are to remain the same. So she is breaking the law. And as far as him being a Baltimore City police officer, he actually said something that made a lot of sense. If the shoe was on the other foot and it was him that was saying, I'm not going to let you see the kids during this pandemic because of, if, say she was a healthcare worker or a police officer as well, for him to say that, he would have consequences, whether it be suspended from the force, whether it be in contempt of court, because that's what she's doing. She's actually being in contempt of the court, and that's just what it is. Unfortunately, right now, at this point in time, since this pandemic is going on, the court systems are not open for him to drag this into court to say, hey, this is the situation, Your Honor, can you fix this? So unfortunately, now he has to wait it out. My problem comes in is I truly feel like the court system is very biased when it comes to situations like this, where there's a mother and a father involved as far as custody and the kids. I feel like the mothers always have the upper hand. I've always felt that way from my personal experience, from people that I've known go through similar situations, their experiences. And I feel like when this is over, and by the time he does get her into court, that the judge may say, well, okay, it happened, and, we're going to move on, maybe slap her on the wrist or say, you shouldn't have done that, don't do it again, or anything like that. But I truthfully feel like that, again, if the shoe was on the other foot, and no matter how long it took to get this case back into court, they would say, okay, well, you still didn't follow the rules, you didn't follow the law, and there are going to be consequences behind it, and deal with them in that manner.
Yeah, I think it's more, the problem is not the issue of the children's safety. I think the issue is that she made this decision for the both of them without it being some kind of mutual agreement. And it sounds like there probably wasn't even a conversation about it. And that's where the problem comes in. I have a friend who is in the same situation, but he actually decided, okay, I'm not going to see my daughter because he has a federal job. He has to go to work. He's an essential employee. And he said he didn't want to put her at risk. So he made the decision. He discussed it with the child's mother. They both agreed, and that's what it is. And he's missing his child like crazy, but he feels more comfortable with just FaceTiming her or talking to her on the phone rather than putting her at risk. And so it's like it's a two-tier problem. Yes, he could be exposing her because you don't know really if you're being you can be as careful as you want to be and you could still contract this virus. But it's just the fact that she took the option away from him. And that's the legal aspect of it. That's the part that makes it wrong and not fair. And like you said, playing on the fact that the courts most of the time side with the mother. And it's not always fair because they aren't always in the best mindset or to make these decisions, but because they're the mother, they just it's a double standard. And I don't, that doesn't feel right to me.
I totally agree. The situation that I'm in with my ex-wife, I've had custody of my children now for about 7 years, and the court ordered my ex-wife to pay child support. And it's almost kind of like the deadbeat dad syndrome, just reversed, because she told me, she said, no court, USA, is going to make me pay child support. I said, okay, it's your obligation to help out with these children. So we went to court in custody. In the custody battle, child support came along with it. And she was ordered to pay like $800 a month at that time. And she would get a job. Child support would start garnishing her wages. She would quit that job. 3 months down the line, she'll get another job. Child support will get a hold of her. She would quit that job. So now, to date, as of right now, child support that's owed to her children, not me. Because again, you're paying this money to help raise these children. Mm-hmm. Child support owed to date over $33,000. And my problem with this is, it's the mother that owes this money. She's still free to walk the streets. Mm-hmm. I'm sure she has a job. She's probably under the table or something, but she's still free to walk the streets. She's still able to go out and live her life and, do whatever it is that she wants to do and live carefree while, we're over here figuring it out. Now, it's going to get handled. It's going to get done, and that's fine. We are not struggling at all. But it's the point. But if the shoes were on the other foot, and me being a male, a black male at that, I'm not even going to lie, would I still be able to walk the street on $33,000? Not at all.
It would have taken your license, locked you up, everything else that they do.
Everything. Not at all. So that's where, and I've continued to try to go take it back into court and say, hey, you know what? By your order, she should be held in contempt because she's not paying the agreed amount. This is what she's doing. This is what's happening. And they told me, well, if you can't locate her and give us an address, we can't follow up. If she can't be served, we can't get her back in court. So I don't understand that language, because why shouldn't you already see that she's being held in contempt? That she should be held in contempt because she's not holding up to the obligation, and put a warrant out for her. Granted, you may not be able to find her right now, but at some point she's going to encounter some situation with law enforcement, and then you take her into custody then and let her deal with what she needs to deal with then, instead of just let her walk free. But again, if that was me, you'll be coming to my job, you'll be coming to my house, you'll be coming to my last known address, you'll be going to my mother's house, you'll be going to my friend's house. You will be doing all these things to take me into custody because I am not dealing with my obligation. It's not right. It's not fair. Not one, his girlfriend or ex-wife, I don't know what she is to him, but she should not have the right to be able to make those kind of decisions in that joint situation and the courts be okay with that. She should be held in contempt.
I'm like I said, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate, and maybe for one reason. All right, well, first of all, like you said, the Governor Larry Hogan of the state of Maryland It says that all court orders for child custody and child support are still in effect, and circuit courts will only act in emergency situations. So they first of all have deemed this not an emergency situation. So it's nothing he can do court-wise right now. Now, as far as the male-female aspect, I'm gonna look at it from my point of view. I'm an essential person, but I don't have to go in at the moment. And my lady is a nurse, so she's in the hospital. She's testing people that are coming up with coronavirus and the whole 9 yards. But she thinks she has the proper gear and is taking care of herself, and she's had no symptoms. She feels good. Her facility has done very well. But that being the case, we have, we're together. We don't have a custody agreement because we're together. But let's just say I thought she was coming down with something. I may pull something where she couldn't be around my son.
Well, the difference is that if you thought she was coming down with something, so it does. We don't know all the details because it's just, what the news reporters decided to tell us. So of course there's another side to the story. But if he is displaying no symptoms, if you're displaying symptoms, you're coming down with something, even if it's allergies or whatever, I get that. That makes perfect sense to me. And again, it would probably be something that would be a mutual agreement. I don't think that you would approach her with, I'm putting my foot down.
I would.
And you not. Well, you probably would as a man.
But
what I'm saying,
for the safety of the child.
I think that she would, as a healthcare professional, she would agree with you. She would probably say something before you had to say something. And but if he's not displaying any symptoms, if the only reason she had to make that judgment is that he is a police detective and he's still going to work, then it should be a mutual conversation and a mutual agreement. And that is where the problem comes in.
Let me throw one quick curveball. Let's just say she went along with him. Now, granted, this has not happened. What happens if the kid, remember, because you don't have any symptoms up to 14 days, they say.
Right.
So you could just be carrying this. What if he has 2 kids with her, a boy and a girl? What if one gets sick and heaven forbid something happens to him? What are we saying then? Well, at least she had a joint decision? Or does she feel as though I'm protecting that situation from happening, period? That can't anything happen to them if I protect them from being around someone who is exposed to possible coronavirus?
Oh, I'm sure she probably is using that rationale. And that's a legitimate rationale. I'm not saying that she's wrong for trying to take that precaution. No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is I don't think that it's right that she is not even giving him a say, because he is the child's parent as well.
Agree.
Now, last question on that is, what is the opposite of this? If she says that, well, I want to do a joint decision with him, but he says, okay, I want to see my kids, but she feels unsafe with that, where do you go from there? Because like I said, the rationale of going along with his point of view is the kids possibly being exposed to it. So can you say you're right when one of the kids has passed away from coronavirus? You see what I'm saying? Or could you say you're right by this thing being over and then you deal with whatever happens afterwards, but nothing happened to your children?
Again, I would, that's a hard decision. But again, I feel like, being that the governor has said that during this time that these orders are still in effect, I think that he's just saying, use your best judgment. You know what I mean? And again, if that parent's not showing any signs or,
14 days of no signs, and you're still carrying it. So of course you're not going to show a sign for possibly 14 days.
But in all actuality, you can catch coronavirus going to the supermarket. You can catch coronavirus walking to your car and interacting with your neighbors. So, I mean, that's a tough one, man. That's a
Well,
tough one.
another thing is I just sent it to you guys a little while ago. A police officer from Baltimore City Police just died of coronavirus. They put it out today. A sergeant, the first COVID-19 death from a city employee, died today. You know what I'm saying? He's doing police work. Are you not scared to put that out to have your children in that situation? We are dealing with people who are exposed to it for sure.
Again, that's a hard one. I think that still she shouldn't have had the right to just say, you know what, you're not gonna see them, and this is why I'm going to make it to where you're not gonna see them.
I would tell my lady in a heartbeat, if I felt that way. I don't feel that way. I believe in what she's saying in her medical profession, her medical knowledge. But if we weren't together, I could see me pulling that card as well and just dealing with the repercussions of the law later, because the number one goal is to protect your children. And if you don't do it, who will? If the other parent wants to see them because of their own selfish need to see them, Facebook is not good enough, or FaceTime is not good enough, what have you. They want to physically see them. And I'm in the house. I don't go anywhere. I order my food. I do everything. I Lysol everything down when it comes. I'm taking every precaution. That's a safer environment than someone who is dealing with the public, who has coworkers, many coworkers in Baltimore City police have the virus. I mean, that's public knowledge. And one has died today. What's safer? If you're worried about the optimal safety of the children, or you're just worried about, I want to physically see my kids for whatever reason.
So you're saying that what she's done is okay, and there should not be any repercussions for it?
It could be repercussions, but who cares? If you're a parent, your number one goal is your overall safety of your child. And the reason I feel like this is because I do have a lady who's a nurse that if it was a situation where I didn't feel safe, and not necessarily seeing anything from her, but let's say we get, this is a fluid situation. So they keep changing what's causing coronavirus every day, whether it's airborne, how far it can go, if it's 6 feet, if it's 25 feet, or what have you. So
they don't know. They don't know.
Exactly. So some news came out today that said, listen, anybody exposed to it, especially in a hospital setting, is unsafe. We got to work something out. Just that simple. And she can be mad if she want to be, but my children's life and health is more important than if you're upset, than if you want to go to the news. And then, I'll deal with the legal repercussions or ramifications of that later, as long as I know that my kids are in the safest situation possible. And I think that should be taken into effect, and not just personal feelings of, well, she shouldn't get to say that. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When we were trying to get this podcast off the ground, we had a lot of questions. How do we record an episode? How do we get our show on all the apps that people will listen to? How do we make money off of our podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing our podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with some great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading you this ad. Anchor, we started almost about a year ago, and it's been a godsend. Like I said, it's a one-stop shop for everything. You don't have to have any experience, and it takes you where you want to be. So if you've always wanted to start your own podcast and make money by doing it, go to anchor.fm/start. That's anchor.fm/start. And join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast.
You see, it's just a hard situation. My wife, she works in the healthcare field, and she talks all the time. She says that, she actually worries about every day coming home, and coming home to us and not knowing. You know what I mean? Because knowing all the things that are happening now, but not knowing exactly what her status is in a sense from a day-to-day basis. And I get that.
Right.
And she tries to take precautions. Of course, they have the proper, gear that they supply them with, and things of that sort. And my wife has even gone a step further to where you walk through the front door of our house in the foyer, there's the little temperature gun and hand sanitizer. So real life, not lying. Everyone that's outside, which is only me, really mainly my wife and I, because we're the only, it's just the kids, so we're both essential. So when we come in, bam, temperature. Okay, you're good. Sanitize down. You're good. Take your clothes off at the door. Bam, straight to the left. And it's just what it is. We don't walk in the house without, outside of the foyer, we don't walk in the house with the shoes on. And that's just where we're at with life right now. I think you just have to take precautions, to make sure that your family's straight. And I'm sure that he's a 20-year veteran.
Right.
So
this sergeant was longer than him. The one that just died was in there longer than he was. The one that just died today was longer than he was.
I understand that, but you can't. I don't know the sergeant. I don't know anything.
The commissioner's son has it. You know what I'm saying? Like, multiple people in that field are getting it. And listen,
but so are regular people. That
right.
Like, I think what Richie was saying is like even regular people. So it's is this a bigger deal to you because he's a police officer? Because there are people that are just going to the market and getting it and bringing it home to their children. So then if you're saying that, then you're saying that no one who leaves the house for whatever reason should be allowed to be around their children. And then it becomes a little extreme because before I sprained my ankle and was like sat down for real, I was out. I was going to the store. I had my daughter with me. We had our gloves on. We had our masks on. We had a canister of Clorox wipes with us, wiping everything down, wiping our hands every 5 minutes. But does that mean that, I can't, she is now, we got to be in separate rooms until this is over because we left out the house? Like, at some point, everybody, yes, the commissioner's son, all these people, but so does Joe Schmo and Nancy Drew. They all have it. Like, it's okay, these people have it, but so does everyone. There's a lot of people who have it. It doesn't matter what their careers are. And again, I don't think his issue is not that he's not looking at the safety of his children. I think it's that she is taking his voice away. She is taking away his input. And as a parent, as a person having two parents, that is the problem. Not saying that she's not right. It's just in her reasoning and her rationale, it's just the looking at her taking away his right to be a part of the decision.
Right, because I'm sure she has to go to the store to get food.
Not necessarily.
She's got to cut.
You could be ordering it.
But we don't know if she is or not.
Yeah, we don't know.
She could have been out at Giant every day, Walmart every day.
Being that we don't know, and it is the unknown, just for sake of this conversation or this little debate here, let's just say, what if she was doing the optimum as far as not being exposed to coronavirus? She orders everything. She does not leave the house. The kids do not leave the house whatsoever. They spray everything down that gets delivered. Let's just say she's going all out. I doubt it, but let's just say she is. Does that make a difference?
It doesn't make a difference in the fact that she's taking away his right to have input, that she's taking away his voice. Yes, it does make the environment more ideal for the children. Yes. But it doesn't take away the fact that she is not letting him have an input in the decision. And that's the thing about law, and that's the hard thing about being a lawyer, being a judge, is sometimes you have to separate the two. you have to take that emotional part and that other part out of it, because the law is the law. And that is where the problem is. Not saying that if they went to court and the judge said, oh no, you're right because your environment is safer. Yes, you are right. But to not even give him a say is what the problem is. Not the fact of if the environment is better or if the decision is the right decision. It's the fact that the decision was made without giving him a say in that decision.
What if they have a say and they just disagree? What if he wants to have them and she says, no, you can't? Who's right? Tough one, right? That's a tough one.
I mean, yeah, that's a tough one, but you would hope that in certain situations that they would have to just say, you know what, with what's going on, somebody in the situation has to be right.
Right. We have to agree to disagree.
Right.
And that's the decision.
That's what they've done. That's what they've done.
But how do you know that?
Because he wants them and she's not giving it to him. So
but they didn't. There was no. They never agreed. She pulled rank, so they never agreed on anything. She just said this is what it is.
Disagree makes it a mutual decision. I read the article the article to me read as if there was not even a discussion about it. It was just no. And that is the problem.
See, what I'm saying is that even if you have an agreement to disagree, and he says, I want to see them my 3 days that the court ordered me to see, and she's saying no, that's an agreement to disagree, but she's pulling rank at that point that she's keeping them. And this is where litigation usually takes place. But because of the pandemic, they don't rank this as an emergency. If this goes on for another 6 months, he may not see his kids, or he may lose his mind and use some officer tactics that he probably shouldn't use.
Well, I tell you what should happen for sure is she should be held in contempt.
But that won't be for months down the line or until this is over, because they said this is not an emergency.
Right, but it still should be. That's where I'm interested the most to see the outcome of that
legal aspect. Well, see, that's where
once the quarantine is lifted, it would be a moot point.
Well,
so it wouldn't matter really what the legal thing is, because by the time the judges are going back to court and things are open again, then she has no leg to stand on. It'll go back to status quo.
By the time they go to court,
she should still be held in contempt, and they should do something. She should suffer some kind of legal ramifications, because again, she broke the law.
But she acted on the safety of her children. That's why I brought you the law from Thomas Jefferson, where he said, if a law is unjust, so the law is saying that he has to get them 3 days a week, to get the kids 3 days a week. It's not only the person's right to disobey it, but it's they're obligated to do so, because she feels as though this law is unjust, giving him 3 days right now that is unjust due to the pandemic and her ultimate goal. I mean, a lion or a small animal will fight a big animal to the death to try to protect his kids. So if she truly is standing on her square, thinking that I am protecting my kids from possible coronavirus, I almost don't knock her if that's what. Now, if we thinking like, well, she's just trying to be smart and she's twisting her neck while she's doing it, like, you ain't getting these kids, all that, yeah, that's different. But if she really is on her conviction of, I just want what's best for these kids, and I want them to be safe, and I provide a safe environment where there's very little chance of coronavirus compared to his environment in Baltimore City, where he's out here with these Baltimore idiots we saw in all the videos, it's a big difference.
But real quick, do me a favor and say that Thomas Jefferson quote one more time.
The law is it says, if a law is unjust, a man is not only right to disobey it, he is obligated to do so.
But the only part of that is not in that quote that is going to happen. The quote is saying, if you feel like the law is unjust,
Right.
Okay, you don't have to go ahead and abide by the law. But what that quote doesn't say is, but there will still be consequences because it's
Exactly.
a law.
Because I could feel like every law is unjust. Purge. It could be the purge up in here. Like, okay, but that doesn't mean I'm right.
I agree 100%.
I mean, I speed because I think speed limits are unjust, but I'm wrong. I'm still going to get ticket. I'm still going to get locked up if I'm going too fast. I mean,
I agree 100%. I have a stop sign at the end of my block that I think is unjust because by the fact that I have to stop every morning and there's no traffic there pisses me off. But if I run that stop sign and get a ticket, what am I going to say? I think stop sign is unjust by being there because no traffic is on that road because I'm in a cul-de-sac.
You're right. Yeah. Listen, I fully agree with you guys. I just wonder, at what point do you put children's safety above all else? Because if something happens to these kids around him, let's just say, all right, this has been on the news, it's been articles in the paper, the whole 9 yards. So say she just gives in and gives him, we do this for another 6 months, pandemic stays for 6 months, and then something happens to these kids. What happens then? You just like, oh well, at least he got his rights. You see what I'm saying? That's the only thing I was saying. It's just, listen, I fully believe he should be able to see his kids. I would want to see mine. Now, if I was in a predicament where I was in a tough situation, maybe I would just do it on Facebook or what have you, or I keep saying Facebook, FaceTime. I'm not sure how I would do that because I'm so used to having my kids in my life. I separated one time with a kid like Richie did, and I had equal rights and equal time and the whole 9 yards, and ended up getting them sole custody myself. So I've always had my kids in my life. So I could not imagine in a situation where someone's telling me I can't get to see my kids. But I couldn't imagine a situation where I tell somebody else that, listen, it's unsafe, you can't see them. I can see that happening. I know that sounds crazy. It's a double-edged sword here, but I believe that I could do that if I had to, because if I believe it's safer for it may happen now. If the wrong news comes out today or tomorrow, my wife is a nurse. Matter of fact, if she was working at one of these places, like what's that spot? It's a senior home here where it's like 170 people, like 41 staff members and 129 patients. If my lady worked there, hey, it'd be some talking going on.
Oh yeah, no, she'd be staying in a hotel.
She probably would be okay with that because it makes sense. Right.
What if she's like, I know what I'm doing, it won't happen to me? Then it's her word against the safety of my child, and that's where the problem will come in.
Yeah, you married the wrong chick, player. Sorry.
I wish we knew more of the background facts to this. I wish we had more details to really make a more informed opinion about it, because we don't know, like you said, if she's been locked in the house, shutting everything down all this time. We don't know if she gave the option of FaceTiming them, whenever he's available. We don't know all of those things. So it could be an issue where she's not even allowing him to FaceTime, or he's a detective, so his hours are crazy, and maybe he's not available to talk to them until like 3 a.m. And
right.
She may have shut that down. And I feel like just her saying no is just the tip of the iceberg. There has to be more to it for him to have taken it
to get a lawyer in the whole 9 yards.
Exactly.
Right. Or is it just a bitter thing?
I don't think just a bitter would be, I'm calling Fox News.
Listen, it could. Listen, you know how quick it could happen. Oh, no, she didn't. That's all it takes.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
And if you have the resources, I'm not going to lie. If you have the resources, use them. So, if you have the resources, use them.
This is a tough one, man. I don't know, if there's a right answer.
Right.
I know. Depending on which side of the fence I am on as a parent, I would want to see my kid, or I would want my kid not to see the other parent. depending on what side of the fence I'm on. I mean, it really depends on that. Well, this is a interesting topic, man. I mean, guess we should close this out. What's the closing views here? What you think about? What's the closing view? You start with Miss Savage there.
Again, I mean, it's two sides, and I can see both sides. And I wish I had more information to make to make my opinion more well-rounded. But I can see the side of the safety of the child, but I can also see the side of not both parents not having a chance to say and voice their opinion and come to some type of livable agreement, because this is going to be going on for at least another couple of months.
Okay, you straddling the fence.
No, I am straddling the fence on this because I don't have all of the information, and there's a point. Both sides have a point, but me personally, I wouldn't just make that decision without having a adult conversation with my child's father, without seeing his side of it and trying to come. At the end of the day, somebody's opinion is going to overrule.
Exactly.
That's just human nature. That's just how it works. But I'm thinking maybe he wasn't even given the chance to even voice his opinion and give his justifications. And if that's the case, then that's where it's wrong.
Right. I got you. What you got there, Richie B?
I'm gonna go with this. The law is the law. The law is the law. She should not have that right. The law is the law. Let that man see his children, and the law is the law, man. That's where I'm at with it. The law is the law. Let that man see his children. Don't do that. I wish we did have more background on it. I know what I kind of feel like, from reading the article a little bit, and it seemed to me like for someone to just take rank like that there's some underlying issues going on there, the way that things were worded. Mm-hmm. But I don't know for sure, but being in this type of situation, don't use this as a play to say I'm a power trip. So,
right, they could have already had some previous custody issues going on. For this to become a big thing where it's taken to the news and everything else, I just feel like there's more to this story.
I agree. Well, myself, Roscoe Squeeze Off, like I said, I normally always side with, seeing your kid. But this is a unique situation. This is a situation like we've never seen before, and, since the Spanish flu, which none of us were alive for in, 1918. But another reason is I'm also in a situation because my lady does work in two different facilities where they've been controlling their corona. They've had coronavirus in both her facilities. One is like 3 patients, one is like 6, but they're big facilities and they're able to contain those right now. But if I wake up tomorrow and her facility has a breakout where it's 200 people or something and several staff, I'm pulling the same rank that his lady pulled. Now, granted, I have probably a little bit more leg of a ground to stand on than she did, but I'm pulling rank regardless of what she thinks. She'll get an attorney. We'll do what we got to do. But the reason I think that I'll be justified is because the number one goal as a parent, whether mother or father, is not just to provide for them, is to protect them. So my number one goal at the end of the day, whether she's upset, happy, mad, whatever, is to protect her, whether she agrees with me or not. So I have to protect my children at that point. So if I feel as though, and I could be wrong, and I may be subject to some type of court action after everything's over and the courts finally start seeing cases, but I will put my foot down and I will protect my kid to what I think is best at that point, which may not be right, But it's what I think is best at that time, because I believe my number one goal as a parent is to protect my child from anything that can harm my children. So if it's a possibility, I believe that parent is putting themselves at risk to get this pandemic virus, which is taking out so many people across the world, I will do what I have to do. And if that's what his lady's doing, I agree with her. Now, if it's just a neck popping thing, I'm in control, that's different. But if she really believes with conviction in her heart, she's protecting her children and she's doing whatever it takes. And I ain't talking about the lady that's keeping her children and, you know, got different dudes popping past that might have it. But a little lady, I'm talking about somebody who's really doing their best to keep themselves from getting it, taking all precautions and protecting the children. I believe it or not, as crazy as it sounds, and in lieu of the fact that we don't have a court system to rule or adjudicate this, I side with her, because the number one goal in life is to protect the children. That's just what I think. Crazy, right?
That's what it sounds good. I agree too. I just, like I said, I think there's more to this story.
I do too.
I think that as a responsible adult, he wouldn't have taken it this far if he felt like she was doing all of that.
Well,
so I think there's more to this story.
Let me just throw this out there. If my lady's facility gets 170 people with this, the next show will be about me doing this to my lady. Just throw that out there right now.
You might as well get it ready, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Prime them up.
Cue the topic. Cue the next topic.
Right.
Well, as always, it's been a pleasure. And everybody, please check us out. Check out all our sites. Wherever you listen to us at, you can click on the link now. It gives you everything that we're affiliated with. Our Facebook, our Instagram. It gives you everything. So you can contact us a multitude of ways and weigh in. Somebody weighed in today. They agree with Miss Needy Savage and disagreed with Mr. Richie B about the N-word. So look into that segment as well about the N-word.
Haters.
Don't be mad, Craig.
I ain't gonna get a haters no play. Sorry.
You can check us out on Twitter. You can read about how the young gentleman did not like what Richie B had to say about the N-word.
Hey man, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I actually commend the guy for standing up to it. Apparently we have different opinions, but I mean, nigga, what you want to do? What can you do?
Well, all right, it's definitely been a pleasure. Once again, it's your boy Roscoe Squeeze Off with
Needy Savage, and we out.
Peace.